when you create a Google Business Profile, and obviously you can edit this after the fact, Google essentially asks you, is this a business that people can visit? And
Yeah.
therefore, should we show the address publicly? Or is this a service area business? And I'm asking this because I'll tell you, a lot of the roofing contractors and contractors that I talk to, they have legitimate businesses, but
Yeah.
they run, their home address is like their
Yeah.
business address
Yeah.
because they don't really need an office.
Right.
Um, what is the best thing for them to do in that situation? Should they be
Yeah.
putting their home address as the public address in order to kind of latch on to that local area in Google's eyes? Or should they be choosing a service area and not putting their address public? And then follow-up question would be, if the answer is a service area, should you keep the service area limited to a city and then create multiple Google business profiles somehow? Or what's the best practice there?
Yeah, good question. I hear it a lot actually. So the downside of the service area, right, is that you don't show your address. And the downside of that is Google typically prefers for a contractor company to show an address. And it's not even that, if your competition is showing addresses and you don't, that is a weird scenario. What I mean by that, it actually speaks of a bigger philosophy of SEO. SEO is not rocket science. It's not something you have to create. SEO is looking at what Google has already established. And Google looking at existing results and parameters that are ranking and trying to, at the very least, mimic that, but at the very best, go beyond that. So, what do we see when we look for a local roofing contractor in the maps? Most of them have an address. So, you showing up there and saying, hey, I don't need an address, I'll be ranking just fine. Well, if your top 10 competitors are showing address, that obviously is a common denominator. It's a common thing. It's a factor that unites them. So you coming in there and saying, well, I'll be different, it's not going to serve you. You want to take what they have and use that for your advantage. The same goes for content optimization and all of that. That's a new kind of movement in the SEO world is not to just optimize in a vacuum, but looking at existing results and drawing information from that to guide you, because that is a dead giveaway of what Google already likes. So most businesses, they do have that address, but also there is a psychology element. Obviously, people, clients, they like to see the actual local address, right? That gives them a peace of mind. But also that also gives you a pin on the map itself. And Google usually prefers the actual local address. If your competition has address, then if you don't, the Google's like, well, okay, well, but we'll drop you up a little bit, drop you down a little bit. So my advice is show your address as much as you can and don't overthink this. Many
But
businesses are run from houses. Many businesses are run from basements. So what? The reality is such that your clients are typically not going to just stroll into your business, right? This is not the kind of business that people just walk into without a call. So don't be afraid. And really, you're not really solving anything by hiding your address on Google. Why? Because for you to even have a chance at competing at the first no, on the first page or the first top 10, top 3 results in the maps, you would still have to do citations, which is basically business profiles all across the internet. You need to have enough of those business profiles all across the internet so Google trusts you that you're legitimate. Well, guess what? You cannot hide your address there. You go to Yelp, all of the other business profiles, Yellow Pages. You cannot hide your address there. You have to show it. So you're not really solving anything. If you're in it, be in it 100%. If you're not, then not.
so what do you say to a contractor who says, fine, Dima, that's great advice. I'll show my address or I'll show an address, but I do not want to show my home address for various reasons. What do I do?
Well, then go get an office. Make it easy for everyone. Go get an office. Like, you need to be serious about it. If you want SEO, be bold and show your address, which I do all the time. Like, I've lived many different houses. I have a ton of kids. I still show my address everywhere.
Yeah.
My home address. If anyone needs to find your address, they'll find your address. This is
Yeah.
super easy. It's a lot
Yeah.
easier than you think.
Let me ask
So
you something.
yeah,
Let's say someone gets an address for let's say someone says, okay, I'm gonna get an office. I'm gonna spend that whatever it costs per month, I'm going to get it, but I want to get the cheapest one I can find. So I'm going to
Right.
find this co-working environment
Yeah.
that has offices for $500 a month, or even there's like a $200 a month option where it's a shared desk.
Right. Right.
It does that address at that building where there are 100 other address
Right.
businesses, and the only difference being maybe a suite number. Does
Right.
that is that address, does that hold as much weight as a completely distinct address?
From my experience, Google doesn't care at this point. So as long as it's a place where a customer can technically walk into and have a conversation and sit down with you, that qualifies. Back in the day, they allowed virtual offices and UPS boxes and PO boxes, and all of that was possible. We've done hundreds of these, and then they started suspending them nonstop.
Mhm.
Shared office space is still an actual office. So I know a lot of roofing companies that use that. It's kind of like a backdoor. It's a loophole where you could definitely get yourself on the map there. Now, what they will want you, and especially now with video verifications, they would want you to record yourself inside that location with your logo somewhere. As long as you can do that, then you're fine. Record yourself on the desk. You're working. Here's my desk. This is where we would meet with people. There's a lot of times some kind of shared, conference room or something like that. Just use that for the video, and that usually goes through just fine. And that also is a perfect way to diversify your presence, right? To have multiple GBPs
Mm.
is to have those, shared office spaces all across the area that you service. Because not only you want to show up with your website pages where you don't really need an address, pages can show up for any location with your website, but your map listing needs an actual physical address for you to be qualified to show up to compete at that location. So that is another way to gain additional real estate on the first page in that city.